Laser engraving can be hard. You may have a laser or you're thinking of getting one and you feel overwhelmed. There is so much to learn and so many resources and brands and products out there. It can be difficult to feel like you will ever master this craft. Today I'm sharing laser engraving advice that I wish I knew sooner. I began working with lasers years ago and I started off knowing nothing. I read articles, I watched videos, and I did a ton of tests. I eventually taught myself everything I know now, and I continue to learn new things all the time. Some of the learning was tedious, and sometimes I didn't listen to advice when I probably should have. I often failed, and I wasted a lot of material along the way. I also spent a lot of time just frustrated because I couldn't get something to work. I'm going to share with you 10 of the most helpful tips that I've learned along the way. I wish I would have had a better understanding of many of these before I got my first machine. So I hope these help you learn, grow, and avoid some frustration in your laser journey. Number 1, laser software, for the most part, is not design software. It's a really important distinction to remember. You're going to have a software that controls your laser. If it's an X tool, maybe you've got XCS or the Glowforge web-based software, or maybe you're using Lightburn. These are used to control your laser. You're going to need to bring in designs from elsewhere into the software to then cut and engrave with your laser. These can be designs that you make on your own. Maybe they're business logos or a school team logo, or maybe you have purchased them from Etsy or Creative Fabrica or something like that. But you're going to need a place to get these designs from and then bring them into your software. It is helpful to learn a little bit about design and how to use an external software in addition to your laser software. So that could be something like Canva or Procreate or Adobe Illustrator. You don't have to go into this trying to be like a professional graphic designer or an artist, but having a few basic tools outside of your laser software is going to help you. I use Canva Pro all the time. I use it to remove the background on my images. I use it to get really nice text and fonts and pair it with some other graphic elements that maybe I've downloaded from Creative Fabrica. And I use it to pull things together. I'm able to export them as an SVG and then bring it into my laser software and use that software to cut and engrave with my laser. Number 2, piggybacking off of number 1, is to really understand designs and copyright. I have a whole video on this and I'm going to link below that I highly recommend you take a look at. You have this laser software to cut and engrave whatever you want, but just because you can cut and engrave something doesn't mean it's legal or that you should. So there are a ton of designs out there. You can go do a Google image search and grab an image off the internet and bring it into your software, but that is probably not legal. So really take some time to understand copyright law on whatever it is you want to create. If you are designing your own artwork, you don't have to worry about that. If you are purchasing something from Etsy or Creative Fabrica or something like that, make sure you read the terms and conditions. And if something doesn't look right, it's probably not. For example, if you found a Winnie the Pooh image on Etsy and a seller is selling it, just because you purchase it from them doesn't mean you have the right to Winnie the Pooh, whose copyright is not owned by that Etsy seller. It's owned by Disney. So really understand this. Please go watch my full video I have on it so I can help you learn what's okay to use and what's not. But whatever site you're looking at to get designs from, be sure you're reading their license agreement and terms and conditions. Number 3, just because you can make something with your laser doesn't mean it's necessarily worth your time and effort. So there's a couple different things to keep in mind here. First of all, you may be using your laser just for a hobby. You got it because you want to make things for yourself, for your friends and family. And so you're not necessarily looking to make a profit here. You don't mind if you spend a couple hours making something really cool. If you got your laser with the hope of making a little extra cash, by selling some items, you really need to keep this tip in mind. The best example is big 40-ounce Stanley type tumblers. This is one that I use all the time. Now, this is not necessarily a full wrap. It does go all the way around, but it doesn't do the bottom here, and it's a fairly simple design. If you were to engrave this whole thing all the way around with a detailed design all the way to the bottom, it's going to take you at least an hour, if not more, depending on what laser you're using. If you account for the cost of your time and materials, you're going to end up charging so much from this that you're going to price yourself out of the market. So just because you can create that, it might not be worth selling. That's not saying you can't. There's plenty of people who sell these and who do very well with them. But definitely keep this in mind, especially if you haven't gotten your laser yet. If you have the intention of making and selling fully engraved, fully wrapped 40-ounce tumblers, understand how long that's going to take on the laser that you're looking at. If you get a really high-powered laser, the time's going to go down. If you get a 10-watt laser, it's going to be pretty long. So not saying you can't, just understand what you're getting yourself into before purchasing or before offering these to sell. Number 4, plan to waste material. I got so frustrated with this when I had my first couple of lasers. I had a laser, I had one really great piece of birch that I was going to engrave on, and inevitably I would mess it up. Most softwares come with recommended settings for the material you're using and the laser you're using, but those settings aren't always perfect. So I always recommend getting at least 2 pieces of material. Even if you're doing a tumbler like this, have a test tumbler. I have a basement full of tumblers that I have messed up on. So get 2 of the same thing in the same color or the same finish or the same type of wood. Run a test array on that first one, or just try out your project in a whole bunch of different ways on the first one. Hone in your settings, perfect them, and then make the project. If you just plan this ahead of time, you're going to avoid so much frustration. If you want to learn how to make a test array, I do have a video on how to do that. Most laser software is going to have some built-in setting that helps you understand the relationship between power and speed on your particular laser. Number 5, cheaper is not always better, which I think is kind of self-explanatory, but in the craft world, when we are making things with our lasers, especially if we're trying to sell something, you're always thinking about that bottom line. So if I can get a 12-pack of 3mm basswood on Amazon for a really great price, I get it home and I'm putting it in my laser, that idea that I have in my head may not turn out as nice because it's basswood. Basswood is great to work with. I use it all the time, but it's not a very high quality wood. Where if I got a really nice piece of maple plywood that just has a beautiful soft finish to it, it's a little bit harder, my end result is probably going to be nicer. Play around with all the different materials out there. There's a ton of different wood or acrylic or leather or whatever it is you're playing around with. Find that material that hits that balance where it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, but it's going to add value to your final product and your customer is going to like it. Once you've found that really nice product and you're stocking up on it and you're using it, make sure you're storing it properly, especially with wood. If you've got like 12 by 12 sheets of wood, which is kind of a common size that they come in, they can also come in like 9 by 16, make sure you're storing them flat. If you store wood on an angle, like propped up on a shelf, it can warp. So storing wood flat is really important. I also store all of my acrylic flat. I do have a video of like my laser room and how I have everything stored, and my acrylic storage system is in there as well. You can use the same system for wood, but storing everything flat and in a manner where it doesn't collect a lot of dust means that when I'm ready to use that material, my project's gonna turn out that much better. So invest in good material and store it properly. Number 6 is masking. Really understand what masking is and how to use it to get really good results. So let me give you some examples. When you have, let's say, acrylic, because this often comes masked. When you purchase a piece of acrylic, it'll sometimes have a film over the top. If that film is plastic, peel it off. You don't want it, throw it away. You can store it with the plastic film on, but you don't want to put that plastic film in your laser. Sometimes acrylic will come with a paper film over it. You can leave that paper on. That is called a masking. It essentially is a protective covering over your material. And when you engrave or cut through it, you can get really crisp, clean lines. And on wood specifically, if it has a masking on it, you're going to avoid char in your engraving. If your material doesn't come with masking, which a lot of it doesn't, most of my acrylic does, my wood does not come masked, you can apply your own. So you can get these large sheets of essentially masking tape, but they're large. I have this huge roll of like 12-inch wide masking. I'll link that down below. And you can place it onto your wood, engrave through it in your machine, and then pull it off to reveal just this beautiful, clean engraving. Number 7, and this is actually a really, really big one. I had a hard time ordering these to share the most important first because I think they're all important. Number 7, know what your laser can and cannot do. This is especially important before you make a purchase. So if you have an idea in your mind of what you want to make, maybe you want to make a whole bunch of these for your friends and family. Maybe you want to make these and sell them. This is a 40-ounce tumbler. A Glowforge does not have an attachment to do a rotary, so to do anything cylindrical. So as phenomenal as a Glowforge laser may be, it won't be able to do what you want it to do. Do your research, get into some community groups on Facebook or Discord, read the description from the brand, watch their videos, watch my videos. I do a lot of reviews and really, really understand what you're getting into. So not only sizing for something like a 40-ounce tumbler, but a diode laser versus a CO2 laser. Diodes are great. They can cut and engrave a whole bunch of materials. But if you're looking to cut and engrave all kinds of acrylic, maybe you want to do clear acrylic or some translucent or patterned acrylic, that can really only be cut with a CO2 laser. You can't do that with a diode. So if you have your heart set on clear acrylic earrings with a pattern on them, you're not going to be able to do that with a diode. So don't buy the diode. You will be disappointed. Do your research, really understand what you're getting into and what your laser can and cannot do. Number 8, keep track of your settings. So when I first started out, my very, very first laser was just this open framed 10 watt. It may have even been a 5 watt laser, and then I upgraded to the 10 watt. And I was using laser GRBL to operate it. And it was awesome. I loved it. It was a great way to get started. There was a huge learning curve for me, but I did it. And once I processed the engraving or cutting that I was doing, laser GRBL was not saving my settings. And I was lost because a week later, I wanted to replicate the project and I didn't have the settings saved. Most software nowadays, like Xtool Creative Space or We Create Make It, if you save the project, your settings are going to be saved in it. However, I would highly recommend keeping your own document of settings. So I am not very high tech in how I do this. I have these little legal pads, but they're small. I have one for each of my machines, so I have a lot of them. And anytime I do a project, I write down what the material is and what the settings are. I do this as a backup and I keep that legal pad next to each machine. Sometimes if I am doing a test on maybe a tumbler or something else, I will actually just use a Sharpie and write on my test piece some notes about which result I liked best. Because I know that a week or a month from now, I will forget what I did in my tests. So you can get a little more advanced. You can keep a spreadsheet, you can keep a Google Doc, somehow keep track of your own settings. That also helps if your computer were to crash or your software updates, there's a glitch and those settings aren't saved within your software. So do yourself a favor, track your own settings. The next 3 are important for your safety. So number 9 is ventilation. Please do this before you get your laser. Just really, really understand what kind of ventilation you need and how important it is. If you already have a laser, you need to take this into account. Your laser is creating fumes and smoke that need to come out of the machine and go outside. So ideally, your laser is vented through the hose in the back, out a window, or out a vent that you have permanently put into your wall, or you're using it outside in a shop and you've got your garage doors open. There are fume extractors that can sit in your workplace, and you can vent directly from the machine to that purifier. It is going to clean the air and then push it out the other side. There's really only one of those that you can't then vent out a window. That's the AP2 by Xtool. Most of them, even though it's cleaning the air, it still needs to be vented back out a window or outside. Just understand the logistics of this. So I'm in my craft room right now. I do have windows up here, but I no longer keep lasers up here. I have one tiny little engraver up here. That's it. Because I don't have adequate ventilation in here, and the rest of my house is fully open over there, and you still get some smell. So all my lasers are in my basement. I've got lots of windows, lots of ventilation, and I'm able to properly get all of those fumes out. So keep those logistics in mind. It's going to help you figure out where you're going to set up your laser and how you're going to get the fumes out. Following right along ventilation is number 10, and that is safety. Just safety in general. Really important to know what you're getting into before you get a laser. Or if you have one, please instill these tips now. A laser is a beam of light that is causing a fire and burning and engraving flammable materials. So you are dealing with something that could really hurt you or your machine or your home or anybody around you. So you have to use caution when using it. Invest in an enclosed laser. I do not like open lasers. I've had them, they're great, they work really well, but an enclosed laser keeps your fumes inside, and they come with some fire safety systems where if a fire were to start, they're really easy to engage, hit that emergency shut off button and just stop everything. I have never had a fire in my laser. I've had some big sparks that have caused me to stop the work. But in order to prevent this, number one, you never leave your laser. I know some people put a camera on their laser and they walk away. I am not comfortable with that. If I'm doing a big job, I make sure I have everything I need with me in my laser room, and I just stay there. I may walk 10 feet away, but it never leaves my line of sight. Do not walk away from your laser. Equip yourself with safety equipment. So some lasers come with fire safety systems, like Xtool has one where it's going to sense the fire, it's going to shut down, it can put out the fire. But I have found if I just keep an eye on my laser, I use the right settings because I did all the tests, and I have a small bottle of water, like a little spray bottle of water. I have a fire extinguisher and a fire blanket, and then I have a lot of ventilation to pull the smoke out. So between all of that, I feel very safe using the machines I have. Just make sure that you are prepared. Finally, in that category, number 11, proper care and maintenance of your laser. These machines can last a long time. The general rule of thumb for a 10 to 20 watt diode laser, you're going to get about 10,000 working hours off of that machine if you take care of it. Perform routine recommended maintenance on your machine as the brand recommends. Make sure your lenses are clean, make sure there's no debris in the base, your slats and your honeycomb are free of debris, your fan and your vents are clean. One, this is going to help keep your laser safe because if you have debris and dust floating around in there, you could cause a fire. But also your projects are going to turn out better if you maintain your machine properly. I do have a diode laser cleaning video. I'll link that below as well if you want to take a look. But really, you can go to your brand's website or YouTube channel. It's going to tell you exactly how to maintain it. Do not take that lightly. It's even as simple as on my CO2 laser, I tell you, sometimes I get lazy on that. Cut a lot of acrylic on there and it leaves this kind of sticky residue on the slats. And if I don't clean that off, the sticky residue then sticks to the next project and it just looks like junk on the back. So I need to remind myself often, I put it in my calendar to just keep that stuff clean. I'll be thankful I did it later and I'll avoid some frustration. Tip number 12 is air assist. Just air assist. Understand what this is and how it works. You will avoid a lot of frustration here. My first laser did not have air assist. It wasn't even an option. It just didn't come with it. My next couple of lasers, Air Assist was available, but it typically was an add-on. It just didn't come with the machine. Now, I think it's difficult to find a laser that doesn't have Air Assist just built in. So for most lasers, what this is, it's a little tube attached somewhere near your laser module, and it blows air directly at the project. So when your laser is cutting or engraving, there is air blowing to remove the soot and prevent char on your product. You will notice if you turn Air Assist on or off, you will see a difference when you're engraving and cutting. I always use Air Assist for cutting because you create a lot of smoke and fumes and you just want to get that char and that soot out of there. With engraving, for most of my materials, I use auto Air Assist because most of my lasers have that. You just set it on automatic. When I select my material and select my settings, the software is going to adjust the Air Assist based on what I'm doing. Sometimes if you're engraving like a piece of wood and you're doing a deeper engrave where there's a lot of soot, if your Air Assist is blowing really hard at that, that soot is kind of going to stick to the outside of the design and you're going to get a whole bunch of char that then you have to remove, which can be very tedious. So play around with Air Assist, set it on automatic if you have it, turn it down for some engraving if you're getting too much of that kind of ghosting, that char around your engraving. It also helps if you put masking on your wood and then turn down your Air Assist, you're going to be left with a crisper and cleaner design. Don't shut it off altogether. Air Assist is a really good thing. Just understand what it does and how it works. I have one more bonus tip for you, and that is a laser is meant to bring your ideas to life, but the laser itself is not going to create a viral product or the best-selling product that's going to allow you to quit your full-time job. Your ideas, your design, your unique creativity, that's what's going to do it for you. Same goes if you're using this as a hobby. Use the laser as a tool to bring your ideas to life. So that kind of wraps up a lot of what we talked about. Really understand designing and where to get designs. Focus on those really unique things that other people aren't doing, and use your laser as a tool to create unique creative products that people want. So all of these tips, all of this advice I've shared with you is a list of things that I have come up with over the years that I experienced a lot of frustration with, and I kind of wish I knew earlier so I could have gotten up and running quicker. So I hope this helps you learn and grow and be successful in your laser journey. What else would you add? Let me know down in the comments, especially if you're a laser user who's been doing this for a while. What have you learned that you want to share with others? If you like this video, if you found it helpful, give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I am here every week with new videos that help you move forward in your laser journey. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.